Hey, welcome to Churu. My name is Jacob, and I was just going for a little walk in the forest when I came across this lovely little patch of pine mushrooms, and I thought to myself,
Churu!
yeah. So, you'll have to excuse my voice for this video. I was at a death metal concert screaming my guts out in the mosh pit all night last night. The best thing to do after rocking really, really hard is to go for a walk in the woods to just take it all in. We're here in the Adelaide Hills of South Australia, just coming out of winter, and we had a pretty bad mushroom season. So I did suspect, however, that we'd get a spring flush, and wouldn't you know it, we have. So this is a great opportunity for me to do part 3 of a mushroom myth busting sort of thing. So I've picked a couple of misconceptions, some myths, or maybe just some curiosities to discuss in this video, including what's the difference between a toadstool and a mushroom? Are mushrooms a good meat alternative if you're looking to adopt a plant-based diet? What causes fairy rings to occur, and how prevalent are toxic mushrooms? Are they everywhere? Is it really that dangerous to forage for mushrooms? There's timestamps in the description if you want to skip to anything specifically. So let's talk mushrooms. So first of all, what is the difference between a toadstool and a mushroom? Well, nothing. Toadstools are mushrooms. In other words, there's no such thing as a toadstool except in a linguistic way. It's a common name, especially back in the day in folklore and back in the sort of Middle Ages, to describe a ground-based mushroom that usually has different pretty colors and spots and things on there. Something that looks a bit scary, a bit deadly, like an Amanita muscaria, for example. The word toadstool comes from the Middle English word turtle, or tadde, toad, and stol, stool or seat. I'm definitely mispronouncing these, by the way. Basically, it just literally translates as toadstool, as in a stool that a toad might like to sit on. The name arose in the late 14th century, not because toads literally sat on them, but because they were associated with the toad, a creature considered poisonous and unlucky in folklore. The term toadstool was, and still is, often used to describe poisonous or inedible fungi, basically distinguishing them from edible mushrooms like these beautiful, beautiful pine mushrooms. Man, I'm so lucky to have found these today. Oh, my throat. I'm getting too old for death metal. Just kidding. I'm going to die in a mosh pit, or I'm never going to die. So, are mushrooms a good alternative to meat? Let's say you want to adopt a plant-based diet, like vegan or vegetarian, and you're looking to substitute some of those nutrients that you might otherwise find hard to get. A lot of people, at least culinarily, so will swap out a steak with, say, a portobello mushroom or something like that. Now, previously, mushrooms were considered quite devoid of nutrients, seeing as they are 90% water or thereabouts. Obviously, what I'm about to say varies slightly from species to species, but recent sort of evidence suggests that mushrooms are, in fact it's 100% proven that mushrooms are a really, really good source of some micronutrients, such as B vitamins and D vitamins and many others. But they are actually really low in iron and extremely low in protein, two things that a plant-based diet might be lacking unless you find appropriate supplements. Mushrooms are not one of those supplements. So for someone like me, an aging millennial, but someone who also likes to stay quite physically active, whose hobbies often involve a lot of physicality, I'm a big avid gardener, I work out occasionally, I'm obviously not a bodybuilder or anything like that, but I like to stay in shape because a lot of the things I do require heavy lifting and stuff like that, mostly hobbies. I need about, on average, the evidence or the science suggests, the nutrition suggests, in order to maintain this superior level of physical excellence, about 160 grams of protein a day. Now, if I was to get that from mushrooms, I don't know why I said that weird, I'm fucking hungover, man. If I was to get that from mushrooms, I would probably need, if I did my maths correctly, about 5 kilos. Now, obviously, you're not only going to be eating mushrooms if you're a vegetarian or vegan. You're going to find alternative sources of protein. Although you should be eating mushrooms, I eat mushrooms. You know, if you know me or watch my channel, that I'm obsessed with mushrooms. I love them. They are very, very good for your health. They're just not a good meat supplement. So, get your protein somewhere else. Yes. But still, look how beautiful these fuckers are. Oh yeah. Get that in your guts. Oh, what a good find. Whoops, spider. Get out of there, dude. There we go. Sick. So what causes fairy rings? You know, those little rings of circles that you see in the middle of a field or on the grass? Well, it ain't fairies, that's for sure. Now, I can't disprove the existence of fairies, just like I can't disprove the existence of Santa Claus or Jesus or God. But until someone provides me with scientific evidence that these things exist, I'm going to assume that they don't. So therefore, I mean, it is fun to fantasize about though. I mean, I love folklore, and you can be a massive fan of folklore and legend and myth and mythology without actually believing in its existence. But people at one time did believe in its existence. So, what causes fairy rings? So I've mentioned this multiple times in multiple videos. Mushrooms are not their own entity. They are the fruiting body of a much larger organism, a fungal network that is predominantly underground, especially when we're talking about ground-based mushrooms, i.e. where fairy rings come from. Jesus Christ. It was a long night, folks. I'm sorry. This is called mycelium. So like an apple to an apple tree is the fruit of an apple tree, mushrooms are the fruit of mycelium. And when it comes to ground-based mushrooms, mycelium is predominantly underground. So this is a web-like structure that often will spawn out from a single point, especially if it's a young network, eventually want to continue on and reproduce by popping up mushrooms which drop spores, right? I've done a whole video on a life cycle of a mushroom, so if you want to check that out, please do. Whoa, there's this fly, March flies, man, I'll get ya. So a fairy ring is simply the evidence of a mycelium network underground growing out from a single point. The reason the grass often looks greener or healthier, or at least different, is because mycelium is really good for soil health. If you've got mushrooms in your garden, they bring in lots of nutrients, they form symbiotic relationships with trees, depending on the mushroom. So often the grass will look greener. It's like, imagine if you only watered one spot on your lawn, that spot's probably gonna look a little bit more lush. That's what happens when there's mycelium. And the reason mushrooms pop up in rings, not always, but often, is because they are fruiting, for whatever reason, on the edge of that mycelium network. So imagine something spawning out from a single point, and it's growing underground, creating a circle, and then around that circle, it's gonna spread its spores, because it doesn't want to spread them over itself. Spores go on to create new networks elsewhere. I'm using a bit of personification here, but essentially they're going to create fruiting bodies, i.e. mushrooms, around the edge of that network to spread its spores further and wider, and that is why we have fairy rings. Just like most things in nature, there's often far more complex and wonderful things that the human eye can't see unless you look really closely. So I just got to take a moment to talk about today's sponsor. Just kidding, nobody would ever dare sponsor me. Did you know I make and sell small goods? I'm most known for my hot sauces, but I also do various other things, some experimental stuff here and there, some limited editions, some seasonal products, and spice rubs, and awesome infused salts, like this wild mushroom salt. All the mushrooms in here were foraged by me on private property, so you know it's 100% legal, it's 100% above board, it's 100% safe because I picked them myself. I didn't buy them from an Asian grocery, and it's 100% awesome. It goes good on steak, it goes good on just about everything but steak. Roast vegetables, soups and stews, steak. I just really fucking love steak, dude. So if you like to support independent local businesses and you want to help out this channel, this is the best way to do it. Jump on the website and buy a product. Because then you're not just throwing money at a content creator to make dumb videos, you're actually getting something that's competitively priced in return. So it's a good trade. So go on our website, truru.com, and treat yourself. Or go onto our calendar and you can come meet me in person because we do tons of festivals and markets. You can come right up to my fucking face and be like, what's up? And I'll be like, yo. And then I'll give you some sauce and you will give me money. Give me money. Okay. So are deadly or toxic mushrooms everywhere? Like, how worried do you have to be when going out foraging? Well, out of the tens of thousands of known mushroom species, only a few are toxic that we know of severely toxic, I should say, and even fewer are deadly that we know of. And they're not that common. Like, due to the mushroom murder trial that happened pretty recently here in Australia, go check out my video on that if you want more information on that. Mushrooms are in the news again and everyone gets afraid. Big Pharma comes in, tells everyone, or not Big Pharma, Big Mushroom I should say, comes in and tells everyone off, tells you to only buy stuff from the shops, and governments knee-jerk and implement legislation. They haven't done it this particular instance, but you always get warnings from, say, where I live in South Australia, SA Health. And it freaks everyone out, man, and it discourages the awesome hobby of foraging. Foraging is great. It gets you out in nature, gets you to discover your ancestral roots. It's good for your health, both mentally and physically. And they're a delicious way to provide free food, free nutritious food for your family. So when all this fear mongering happens because a few idiots have done the wrong thing, it really pisses me off, man. That being said, deadly mushrooms do exist. I found a death cap not long ago. I didn't get a photo for whatever reason. They are out there. And even the ones that won't kill you, which are, like I said, everyone freaks out about mushrooms. Only a tiny, tiny fraction will kill you, unless you have a, allergic reaction. But there are plenty of toxic mushrooms out there, so make sure you know what you're doing. It is important because they do exist, and some might just give you a tummy ache, and you don't want that either. So if you want to learn how to correctly identify edible mushrooms, then make sure you subscribe to my channel, dude. I've got a whole foraging playlist. It's not just mushrooms. We're doing lots of different stuff now, but mushrooms are my passion, so that's what you can do. Don't just take my word for it, though. Join foraging forums. Get yourself some field guides. I got a whole bunch of them. I reference them all the time. Get on the internet. Make sure you cross-reference everything. Don't just take one person's word for it, because there's a lot of misinformation on the internet, as we know. And study, study, study. I'm self-taught with the aid of field guides and whatever. I haven't done a course or anything. And you can too. Do not be afraid to get out there and try something new. Just be smart about it. Again, to reiterate, if you are not 100% sure that the thing you're foraging for is safe to eat, edible, then don't eat it. Oh, while we're on the subject, let's do a new section I'm going to call Jacob's Pet Peeve. No, Pet Peeves with Jake. That's even better. Oh, come on, mate. Oh. You see this dad joke on forums like Facebook and Reddit and stuff all the time, and it's the joke that oh my god, I just sat down and found a tiny, tiny little pine mushroom. Oh man, I'm quite familiar in this part of the woods, and I've never seen them in this one particular spot. That is so sick. I'm not going to pick it though because it's so tiny. Let me get a little photo. Oh my god, look how tiny that is. Okay, I have pretty big hands, just to be fair, but that is still a tiny, tiny mushroom. All right, grow, son, grow. So, as I was saying, you see this joke all the time on forums. It says, all mushrooms are edible, but some are only edible once. No. Edible does not mean you can swallow it. Edible means safe to eat. The literal definition is fit for consumption, i.e. it's good for you or it's not going to kill you. In other words, it's not poisonous. So if you die from eating that thing is not, by definition, edible. But I digress. And that concludes this episode of Pet Peeves with Jake. Oh, come on, mate. Oh, my beard is getting outrageous. Check out this new shirt. Got it last night. It's fucking sick. Anyway, awesome band too, by the way. If you don't know what you're doing, learn. Don't just avoid it. Get better at it. But be safe, because like I said, there are deadly mushrooms out there. I know kids sometimes just pick shit up and put it in their mouth, so you do have to be, that's why you should learn to identify mushrooms, because they could pop up in your yard and you could get a sick kid. But they're not just like fucking coming at you from all directions. If you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go home and cook up some of these mushrooms. Yum yum. I've been Jake, or Jacob. You've been watching Churu. Make sure you share this video around. I know I've been absent for a little while, I've just been taking a break, but I've got heaps of stuff that I've been filming, long-term projects coming up. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of that. Share this video around. Leave a comment in the description so we can get a friendly discussion going. I love you very much. Farewell.